How you doing, everyone? Welcome back to General Fantasy Analysis. I believe this is going to be the most important video of the year, so I'm going to pop in some timestamps in there for each different section. We're going to go through all my favorite guns in order. For each position, we're going to go through my favorite mid-ranges and also all the cash cows that are available that I think are somewhat relevant, and rank them as well. So if you do like this, I would appreciate it if you subscribed and also liked this video, shared it with your friends. Whatever you can do there, that'll be really appreciated. It's going to be a long one. As I said, I'll have those timestamps in there along the way. I'll call this the round one player Bible. We've had the cash cow Bible. Let's see how we go with the full video. So my favorite guns in each position. We're going to start with the hooking position, and Grant's going to be my favorite one. I want him from the start of the season. He misses out in round one, so it's a bit of a pain for me personally. I would like to start really well, and I think using that extra cash could be ideal. Yes, you could make it up in other rounds, but I think Grant being someone that is super important, but we can at the price point he is, if there's an injury or suspension or anything to any of our top guns, we can trade him straight in and use a cheapie or a mid-range guy in the other position that we're trading from to get to Grant, for example. If you're not going with him, options include Reed Minor. I think he's just ahead of Cook in my opinion. Heels are going to be really, really good. They're going to be slightly better than Rabbitohs, I feel. And Reed does a little bit of everything. He kicks out of dummy half as well. Yes, the points aren't as special, but I think he's going to be slightly better than Cook. But, around that 60, 62 point average for both those guys will be completely cool. Brandon Smith is someone that has a nice duel, but, is a slightly inconsistent scorer. You just got to look at the first month of last year. He didn't start as well, a bunch of scores in the 40s, and if you're picking him up at a price of 54, I think you'd be pretty annoyed with the start like that. So that's why I put him in number 4. And guys, if you're wanting a further in-depth view on a bunch of these guys, I have spoken about pretty much all of these guys in multiple videos, so please go back and check all of them, especially before round 1 tomorrow. That will be really helpful. But yeah, that's that with Smithy. I'd pop Connor Watson in there just because he's at that price point and has the duel as well. But it's really slightly overpriced with how well he did for the Knights last year. He should do well in round 1, but I expect him to move back to the bench and maybe get a close to a 50-minute role. Just played a few more minutes at the Knights. I just don't see him getting that in the Roosters pack, but we'll see how he goes. We can monitor him. I don't think you're going to miss out from not having him at the start. Mids, Payne Haas, clearly the best scorer in this position. I think he is probably close to the best captaincy option as well, so I'd be just locking him in personally. Angus Crichton, I think, is the second best in terms of a slight bit of a value proposition. The only issue is coming back from elbow trouble. That's why he hasn't trialed at all. But for him, being a bit more of a veteran in today's game, I think he's going to be completely fine. Has that dual position, a little bit of upside on the year previous. He had a bunch of games last year where he's running out of the line, getting a bunch of missed tackles and stuff. And I don't think he has to do that as much this year. Super consistent player. So if you can try and get him in as well, he'd be really cool, whether that's in the mids or the edge there. Isaiah Papali'i, I put him in at 3 because he's still going to score really well. I just think he's slightly overpriced. So if you like him, lock him in, but just slightly overpriced for me. And we're looking for guys that are either going to at least hold their price as a gun, or make you money. So I don't think he's going to do either of them, but will still score well. Joshy Curran, I've got him in the mids. He is a dual position as well. A little bit erratic in his scoring at times, but he will still score nicely. Average 52 last year. You have a look at a bunch of his scores, and got him in the 30s and 40s a bunch of different times on that edge or in the middle, for example, even in some decent minute games, for example. So just have a look with him as to if you want him in your team or not. Taumalolo has a little bit of upside on his previous role, what he's done in the past. Last year had a bunch of injuries. We've been told by assistant coaches that he's going to be getting bigger minutes than last year, so he should be able to score better than last year for sure. So if you like him at that 620 price point, then I think there's a little bit of upside. If you look at he was one of the guys that you almost just stuck in your team from round 1 and held him for the entire season as he doesn't play Origin and things like that. So Lolo is a great option for sure. Just a little bit pricey. If he's in the 500s, I'll probably pick him up straight away, but I might just wait and see with him. And then AFB is my 6th best option. Just heard TK today go out and say that I think he can score 60, and then he retracted a little bit later in the pod and said 55 to 60. But if he gets up near 60, that's Haas level scores, and I just don't see it with him. I'm happy to be wrong, but and you can listen to other people or whatever you think. I just think he played a bunch of big minute games last year, and I don't see too much upside on that with the pack that they have, especially when current Aiken, Harris, and then you got Lodge and him coming, playing some big minutes as well. So that's that. Edge, you got Fafita as the clear best option in the edge in terms of scoring. Will you pay up for him though? That's the question. I'm not going to steer anyone clear of him. He looks really nice in your side if you've plugged him in there and you've got a few guns as well across your team. He looks really nice in that position. So just be the question for him is, will he be playing 80 minutes? And if he does, then he's going to be averaging that mid 60s to 70. Just missing out on a few tackle breaks, but he offloads a lot as well. So not too much to worry about there. Josh Jackson, dual position, mid, edge. He's going to be great as well. We had him in the back end of last year, and he was just nice to sit in there and scoring 55 to 65 on a regular basis. I think he's just scored slightly more consistently than what Ryan Madison would, for example. And his role is just completely clear, where Madison's going to be starting in the 13 role, which we'll talk about him now. Has that dual position now as well, starting in the 13 role. Probably will move back to the edge when Nathan Brown comes back, but it will be interesting to see how he plays in that 13 position, and if he can do really well, does he keep it? And Brown plays through the middle. They have a couple of really good middles as well. So either way, I think Madison will do really well. He's been consistent for a long time and has averaged over 60 in the past, and you get him at a price of 55. So I think you can get him to score at least 55, dual position. Probably not going to play Origin. I think I'm very interested in him personally. I'm looking at him in my head-to-head team, actually, which I'll show sometime, obviously either today or tomorrow. Frizzell comes in at number 4. He's just been super consistent for a long time, so you wouldn't go wrong picking him up. Guys like Lucy Leilua here, he's going to be a top 10 edge for sure. If you're going, there's guys that are dual position. Obviously, I've spoken about in mids. He'll be a top 10. Can he take another step up? And if he can average somewhere between 55 and 60. And otherwise, he's going to average about what he is now. He's someone that does get a few tackle breaks and offloads, so pretty much cancels each other out there in terms of the losses and gains of those points. TPJ, I'll put him in number 6. Just has the upside for sure, but the hot head, suspension risk, chances of playing only 55 minutes. We don't really know exactly. We assumed he had some upside on minutes, but we're not exactly sure how he's going to go, if he's going to stay on the park for as long as possible or not. And Hudson Young, just the minutes unknown for me. That's what's stopping me picking up Hudson. He averaged 55 last year, was really, really good. So chance that he does that again. There's also a chance that he gets moved to the bench and stuff like that, which what happened last year. Any of these things that I'm saying, guys, just pop into either footystats.com, footy60.com, or Rugby League Fantasy Pro there. They're 2 options to have a look at for those stats if you want to look further, or just jump into a few of my videos along the way. Just quickly, before we go through any further, just the league code down there. I have some prizes to announce, which I'll do in a different video, just to not make this go too long. But jump in that league now. There's going to be cool prizes for the top 3. You'll want to be part of that top 3. One of those prizes is actually going to be meeting me and going for dinner and drinks, for example, if you make that top 3. So that's part of it. So jump in that league now. Give you a second. Do it while you're watching this video. Hit pause and get in there. All right, move on to the halves. DC is going to be a clear best half to start without Cleary. If you are thinking about holding Cleary, I think that's okay. I just think you're going to be a long way down the pack for the first part of the season. You'd really want to hope that your cheapies go really well, because you're going to have to pick the majority of them. But DCE, clear best half to start with, expecting low to mid 60s with that drop in tackle breaks and the kick meters. He will get a little bit back in offloads, but he's going to be a really solid captaincy option as well. The thing with him, different to Haas, is he has a chance of getting 40 and has a chance of getting 120, right? He's got that anything in between. But should do well against Panthers in round 1, given the fact that Cleary is out. Munster, I'm so keen on him this year, but him missing round 1 is a bit of a dampener at his price. But I think if you can pick him up over the first bunch of weeks, he's going to be great. Didn't have a great year last year in terms of his actual gameplay, apart from Origin and things like that. But really did well at the back end of the year, and you can see that he doesn't have to do too much to get a 45-50. The drop in kick meters doesn't hurt him too much. The tackle breaks does, but he's someone that offloads as well. So, yeah, pretty high on him going into the season. And his partner, Hughes, is also going to be great. So, a couple of guys to talk about there and think about putting in your squad for sure. Have him as 3rd best option in terms of, I think he can score close to that 60 again, even though he had an amazing year last year. Storm are going to be great again. I don't see much changing, and he's only improving as a half. Ben Hunt, it's his team. So, he should score really consistently. Plenty of kick meters, controlling the team, tackles well. attacking stats, their team's going to be better, for example. So I can see him really controlling this team and doing well. He averaged 57 last year. I could see him somewhere in that mid-50s again, with his price being brought down a tad just for the kick meter changes. Someone I'm super keen on at a bit of a cheaper price, who I don't think the scoring changes will affect him too much, is Dylan Brown. I just feel like he tackles well, doesn't kick too much, so he doesn't lose too much there. Tackle breaks aren't a massive part of his game, but they obviously could be a little bit more. Offloads, yeah, here and there, but for me, his try assist and tackle and tries was really down from what I think he can get if he continues to make improvements. So I'm thinking he has probably 5 points of upside compared to a lot of these guys are probably right on their price point. So I like him as an option. He's probably going to be in my side, let's be honest. Number 6 is Luke Keary. I just feel like his price is a little bit inflated on his amazing start last year. He's next to Walker. He's going to be doing a fair bit more than what Lockie Lamb was doing last year. But I think he's still going to do well, and that's why he's ahead of a couple of other options here. Mitch Moses, just the scoring changes I think affect him the most out of probably almost anyone in the game. He's someone that makes a lot of tackle breaks and kicks for a lot of meters. So just be aware of that if you're picking him up. Yes, his price has been adjusted slightly, but I think it could adjust a little bit more. Can he get better as a player? I don't know. I feel like he's probably pretty close to his peak. He did make Origin last year, so he's playing pretty well. So I think he just becomes a little bit slightly lesser option than some of the other guys. Toby Sexton comes in at 8 for me. Obviously, I haven't been too high on him. I just not sure if he goes to that gun status straight away, right? It might happen later on in the year, but will it happen from round 1 to round 10? That's what we are picking our round 1 teams on. We're not picking it on potential in round 8, for example. So I definitely think he has the upside, but he potentially has some downside also. Could see him average 45, 40 to start the season and lose a little bit of cash. You could see him average just in the low 50s. And you don't really miss out too much on him. But at 600k, obviously I can see why people are interested if he's going to be doing the kicking in general play, the kicking for goals, and setting up a bunch of their tries. But how good are the Titans going to be? That's probably the question you want to ask yourself. If they're going to be amazing, then pick him up. If you're not sure, then probably don't. SJ, Sean Johnson. So back to the Warriors, I just think he's going to be just under keeper status. Maybe in that average high 40s last year. I think he could probably do the similar thing. Kick meters he loses. Sharks are a pretty good team, right? When he was there, so he assisted to Nakora, he assisted to Katoa, did a lot of good things there. When he comes back to the Warriors, are they going to be better than what the Sharks were? I can see him being on par or slightly below that. So that's that. There's so many other options there as well. As you can see, 9 options in the gun halves, and we have so many cheapies to come. All right, center. We have Matty Burton. I'd say is probably the highest potential center. Has the highest upside on pass scores in the half position, with just being able to do everything. He's going to be kicking goals as well, which is even better, which he didn't get to do too much of at the Panthers. The only issue with him is about 50k more than Aiken and Bird. And just listening to a bunch of other people, reading comments, a lot of people are liking Bird, and he was a lock in my squad early on in the preseason, and he kind of went out for a little bit just because I felt like I had to spread that money a little bit further around my side. Having 2 center edge duels in Bird and Aiken, and even flirting with Burton for a while there was an issue. But I've actually probably moved Bird back into my side. We just look at those 3 guys, even all these guys in the centers, but Burton, Aiken, and Bird. Bird's probably a better player than Aiken. Has scored 50, and he was 4 games on the edge, but that gives him 7 points of value. He's someone that offloads a fair bit as well, so be aware of that compared to Aiken. So I can see them having them both on par. Aiken probably has a little bit more upside in terms of try scoring. He loves to find the line, passes a bit less than someone like Bird would, but they definitely both have some upside for sure. So if you went both of them, I wouldn't be too against you. Don't have Aiken as a must-have. He's kind of sat in my team the whole time just because it looked good, but I'm thinking about everyone now. I'm probably losing my mind a little bit, making all these videos, but also trying to make my team as well. As best as possible. But that's those 3. I'm kind of happy with all 3 of those. And then Manu would probably be my next decision. Had him last year. He was really, really good in a more of a roving role. Had played some fullback, played some 6 last year. Will he be able to emulate that in a team that's a little bit better? Right? He might not have as much to do. He might just have to finish on in the centers. He obviously has Keary next to him, which is going to be helpful compared to Hutchison or Walker. I'd say obviously Keary's better than both of them at this stage. So be able to help him with some extra ball. Will he have to rove as much? I'm not exactly sure. So he'll be good, but dual position is nice as well. Stag. So he's definitely a top gun who he just finds it hard to stay on the field. So there's so much talent. He's going to be next to Reynolds. Plenty of upside with Stags, but just the fact that over the last few years he gets on the field, he can score a try really comfortably, but does he stay on the field? No, right? He usually annoys us, so I have to put him in number 5, ahead of Ramian, just for the fact that he has a little bit more upside than Ramian. In a side that's probably going to be slightly better, Ramian will be, but he's already averaging 48, 49. He's a tackle busting guy. He's just pretty consistent with tackles and run meters as well. And Lomax I had to put in the guns category because he has upside. He's cheaper, and I love him. That is all I need to say on Lomax. Just probably an awkward price at the moment. You probably want to go one of the top guys that plays an edge or a half, because Lomax is going to have a little bit more up and down. But if they get onto a bit of a run, the Dragons, he's going to do really well with the goal kicking, etc. Okay, wing fullback, the last of the real big ones, and then we'll get into the mid ranges. So Turbo, worried about him dropping a little bit of cash, but he's definitely a clear captaincy option, and he's going to do well no matter what. Unless he's injured, he's going to be doing great, but we don't want to see him injured. Tommy Turbo, yeah, you plug him in if you want to captain him, great. Just obviously over $1 million makes it a bit tough. Teddy should be the second best wing fullback, averaging around 60. He's 58 last year. He loses a few tackle breaking stats, but I think tries and try assists will be in Teddy's diet this year for sure, being in a better side, not having to do as much. He won't have to play as much 6, and he can do those sweeping plays at the back where he can go through one-on-one or pass to his centers and wingers. I think will be really cool. Third and fourth, very, very close for me, Pap and Hines. So Pap's number 3. I feel like he just has slightly more upside than Hines. Hines has the dual position, but he's going to be a little bit more consistent, I'd say. But just hasn't had to have as much upside. I can't see Hines scoring as many 80s, 90s, 100s as I can see Pap scoring the odd 80, 90, 100. So that's where I'd have them. But both can be doing plenty across the park. Latrell Mitchell, he's going to be a top 5 wing fullback, but I can't pick him in round 1 just because he's out. But pretty expensive as well. So you've got other guys who are slightly cheaper than what Latrell is. All right, Gutho, number 6, always been pretty solid in a great team. He's going to have another nice year, averaging just over 50, but he does have to score a lot of tries and assist a lot as well. Not someone that's going to be affected too much by the tackle break change. Ponga at number 7. Just worried about how Knights will go. Hence him being a bit low on this list, but he's going to be a little bit more boom or bust. He could have the 80, 90, 100. He could also have the 25 to 35, which could kill you. If you start with him and he has that amazing start to the year, and the Knights have a good start, then great. But I see them not going as well, which means a little bit more in the 35, 40 range than those games in the big one. Jaden Campbell, definitely someone who's on the way up. I can see him challenging the top wing fullbacks for stretches of the season. I just don't see it happening from round 1. They've got a very young spine. He'll take a few games to get into it. He has some moments of brilliance for sure, but priced at just a bit over 40, so 42, 43. I think there's some better options in this position. Brian To'o and Garrick, both too expensive to start for me. I just with the tackle breaks loss, Garrick had an all-time season, which I don't think he'll have again. Both probably guys I'd leave out at this stage. Okay, breathe. Let's move to the mid-range options. All right, hooking position. Only one guy I'm pretty interested in, but I can't pick him from round 1, and that's Tom Starling. The minutes is going to be a bit of a worry. If he gets 50 plus, he's by far the best in this price and has a fair bit of upside. But we're not sure the minutes he's going to get. They've got a bunch of forwards on their rotation on their bench, but Hodgson's going to move to the middle as well. Is he going to play 80? Moving between the two. Is Starling going to get those minutes? We're not exactly sure. So keep an eye on him over the first bunch of weeks. And if Hodgson goes down, Starling's your man. Aaron Clark, just the PPM's a bit of a worry for me. Should be getting 60 minutes, though has some small upside with a PPM that's not great. So he, at that price of 420, 430, I can probably leave him out. Even though he's got the dual, for example, just can't do it. Ruben Cotter on the bench is an issue at his price of 500k. I'm just going to leave him out for now. If he happens to get a starting spot, if there's injuries, if he's playing big minutes, if he has to get a hooker, for example, then he's going to be great. But at this stage, he's a no. Jake Simkin just has an average PPM as well. I bought him in last year when he came in. Yes, he was young. Maybe he's probably improved a little bit, but he shouldn't be playing 80 minutes. And I think he needs to at his price to make at least 100k. So should score all right, but you can just use Randall for that, for example. Mids, okay, pretty important one here. We've got Jai Arrow. He's dual position now with the mid and the edges. All that's changed in the app or on the website, guys. Just letting you know. He's got the dual, consistent I think he's got probably 5 to 7 points of upside, so average 48 to 50. I think mids are going to go pretty solidly this year, so he's someone that you could plug in and not worry about too much. At worst, he is going to average what he's priced at now, and look, there's worse things to happen than getting someone that's averaging 43, 45 in your team. Definitely always more worries than that. Stefano is going to have a little bit more volatility, I think, and the question is going to be his minutes. Is he going to get the over 50, 55 minutes that we need him to get? If he does, he's going to be great. If he doesn't, then he's going to average close to or just below where he's at currently. He just needs to see. We need to see what happened at the back end of last year to be an improvement. Christian Welch, I'm sneaky interested in. Had him last year and just thought he'd have a bit more upside than he did. He made a very slow sort of 70 to 80k before losing a little bit come Origin time. So he'd be a play up until that point. Just with their lighter pack, they have less forwards at this stage. Probably means maybe means more minutes. I thought he'd have more minutes last year. Not going to get that. He didn't get it. He might get those extra minutes being I think co-captain as well. And the offloading stats going to help him out a little bit. So probably 5 points of value for Christian. Paulo I see is inconsistent. If you look at his scores, you'll see that. And the offloads are going to help. But I just don't see him being an option of 570k, 569, whatever he is. That's why he's number 4, but he should score pretty well. Bradley, the ball playing skills and the suspension risk makes him hard to have, even though he's an amazing player. I think that puts it pretty simply. He's going to be the link man in the middle. You don't get points for that unless you're putting guys through, with line break assists. But in fantasy compared to Supercoach, you don't get as many points for the line break assists. And usually that means someone's going through and then Teddy's coming back on the inside to score. Walker's there, Kiri, someone back on the inside to score. So he only gets the 2 points for great play, for example. So, and then obviously the suspension risk, he didn't play a lot of games last year, so that's that. Tarpany would be higher on my list, but the vaccination status is a bit annoying on that one. Still haven't heard anything. If anyone finds an article or something that he is exempt, then he could be moved up this list to probably around 3 or 4 for sure, maybe even higher. And Carrigan, I'm just going to say no upside on minutes for me. A few people have asked about him, so just wanted to pop him in there. He's not going to get massive minutes. If you look back to a couple of years ago when he first came onto the scene, they had all young blokes and no one to play big minutes, and Carrigan did that. So he doesn't have to do that anymore. Even Haas had to play bigger minutes than what he does now. All right, Tupanua on the edge. I think he's someone that's going to keep improving. In a good side, he did score 12 tries last year, but he is still a young fella. He's only played sort of 3 or 4 years, but he came in really young. And in a side that I think is going to, similar to what I spoke about with Crichton, they both, him and Tupanua both had a fair few missed tackles, so I can see that improving a fair bit. He also had a head knock game where he got less minutes. He then came back and played off the bench. So there's some upside in terms of just that extra few minutes with a few of those lower scores. So I think he's going to be solid. But yeah, definitely the best scorer, I think he's going to be in this mid-tier of the edge position. All right, Nakora, I think there's some small upside just based on the combination. But we see what he did with Johnson and still couldn't average more than 45. And I just think him as a player has some opportunity to improve, just being a fairly young fella as well. So that's that with Nakora. He should score somewhere around that mid-40s mark with some slight upside on there. Bo Famore, just really inconsistent. I just had a look at his stats again before, and I'm just worried that he won't be out. Like he's every chance of having a couple of games at the start of the season where he gets 30. He's had that in big minutes before, so that's a worry for Bo. But it looks like he's the fittest in the club. There's a bit of a narrative, running around this off season about him. So the big minutes, we're not exactly sure if he gets it, but if he does, he could give him a bit of value. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Similar with Hylam Lukey, the minutes are a little bit unsure. Is Tom Gilbert going to come on for him? Is Mitch Dunn going to come up for him? Does he play 60? If he plays 60, I think he needs probably a little bit more and doesn't have as much upside. But him as a player in general is a bit of a specimen, to be fair, and he has every chance to keep improving. And has some upside on his price, but it's a bit of an awkward one in terms of that price. All right, Capewell and Ricky, we got a small upside on a little bit of an increase in minutes. Not too much of an increase, but enough. Just a bit of an awkward price for Capewell and might take a few weeks to get into the groove of things. And we'll probably be playing on the left side, which is away from Reynolds. You want him probably next to Reynolds, getting a bunch of tries there, for example. Jordan Ricky might make step up in his second year next to Reynolds. That's probably where the upside is, but I wouldn't be starting with him. All right, move to the halves position, and we've got Curdy Man. Just big minutes in the middle. I think you got to lock him in. Any minutes over like 50, 55, and he's going to make a fair bit of cash and score really well. Dual position, no brainer. Sam Walker comes in at number 2. I think as having the goal kicking upside now brings him into much more contention for my team. Bit of a freak talent, and I think he's going to be a solid option there. Don't have too much to say on him. He's going to be sharing the attacking duties with Kiri is my biggest one, which could stop him from being really, really good. Hastings, Jackson. So just below these two on talent and upside, probably not much else to say. I'd rather pick the other two over Hastings. Yeah, he's got Brooks next to him, so they're going to split the efforts as well. If it was just his team and you had someone like a Moylan next to him, he'd be doing all the kicking, the goal kicking, doing everything. So we're not even sure if he gets the goal kicking or if Brooks gets it. So yeah, a bit too much to think about there. Centre, I've got Momorowski at number 1, but more the fact that him being on the wing hurts. He probably isn't going to be goal kicking. So there's a couple of things that's really knocked him about as being a really good centre mid-range option, but every chance he could be moved to the centres. If Walker gets injured, he'll be kicking goals as well. So there's some upside on that, but I wouldn't be picking him round 1. Matty Tomoko, very good player, but awkward price in that mid-400s. I think there's other guys, so many guys in the cheaper spot in the centres and wing fullback that could score close to what he does, but he has some upside for sure. Some big, 2 big scores in his bank already. Moses Sully, a fair bit cheaper, that 370 odd. Can't remember what he is. Super talented, but just a bit unknown. He's a bit volatile. He's only had a few games that he's played 80 minutes in recent time, but he's a really damaging player, and I think he's going to be really helpful for the Dragons this year, for example. Number 4, we got Kotrick. He's been priced higher than what he is right now. Previously playing on the wing for the Raiders, so that's what people are looking at. He's got the dual position. It's going to depend how the Raiders go. If they go really well, he has some opportunity to go really well. So I'm not going to steer you away from him. If you look at his scores in like 2019, 2020, they were much better than what happened last year with the Dogs. So if Raiders go well, he will too. All right, last crack at the mid-ranges here. For the wing fullback, we have the Hammer, Hamiso Tabuai-Fado. For my Cowboys, I've got him here today. Got to rep the Cowboys the last few days. Before round 1, before you go back into our shell and start to struggle again. But anyway, got to have a bit of excitement for him before round 1. Bit of upside at wing fullback for sure. He's going to be loving the attacking stats. The tackle breaks is probably a slight issue, but he's going to be passing the ball well, improving over the off-season as a wing fullback. Nice scores in the back end of last year, so 470 is a decent option in that mid-range, and I have him over all the other guys for sure. But that dual position too. Sloan to get him a wing fullback, a slight bit more expensive, just as talented as Hammer, but I'd probably pick Hammer over him. Very similar plays at this stage. So C&K, Chancellor Cookstar, he's going to be more consistent than the 2 above guys, but just has a little bit less upside. Sloan and Hammer could probably hit you in the 60s, 70s, where C&K is probably going to be around that 40 to 45 pretty regularly, random 30 game. Will Kennedy, similar to C&K, but in a better team this year than what the Sharks were last year. He had an awesome season though. So can he do that and improve just with a few more options in their team? I'm not exactly sure, but that is that. Nofaluma, someone who's a very erratic scorer. He can go missing in bad teams for sure, but the tackle breaks is a big loss for him. So I have him at number 5. He's definitely an option though if you are interested in him. All right, the cash cows. We have spoken a lot about these guys over the season, but let's talk about them from this stage on with the team list being out. Hooking position, Randall, you just got to lock him in. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. He should be owned by everyone, but he won't be. Mids, my best one at this stage at the price point is Ethan Bullymore. Has the dual position with the edge. He's going to have that edge spot for somewhere around the month mark, and then probably a bench spot after. So even if he lasts the 3 to 4 weeks and gains a bit in value, scores fairly well, his break even is going to be fairly low, right? It could be around the 10 mark, 15 mark at that point. And even playing on the bench, getting 25, 30s can make you a little bit more cash for longer. So I think you've got to lock him in your side. Even though he's not too exciting to watch, for example, he's got some upside with points for sure and value. Number 2 is Maxi King. I just think he's pretty, really cheap at 240, has a clear role in the team. You probably just lock him in. You just need him to get other players in your squad. I wouldn't be playing him in 17, but because we don't know what minutes he's going to get, but that's that with Maxi. We've got Leo Thompson. So he comes in at 220k, so even cheaper. I just think, he has an opportunity. He's going to have an opportunity this year, whether it's just these first few games with Saifidi out, or it's a little bit longer. If there's more injuries, there's so many things that can happen. At 220k, I just think he helps you get other guns or other mid-ranges or whatever you need to do. He's going to play at least a few weeks. So we don't know much about him. That's my thoughts. Is just if you need to save another 20k, 50k, 80k, then you can go down to Leo, for example. Joshua King at 319. This is more expensive, and we don't have a clear role of what he's going to play after round 1, how many minutes, etc. So, and he might not even play 13 in round 1. We might see Smith go back to 13, Wishart to 9, and King to the bench. So that's an option as well. And the last option is the Fafita and Hunt. Royce Hunt. Question mark. The minutes are unclear. They have 4 forwards on the bench, so both of them could get 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. We don't know which one's going to get the 20, which one's going to get 35. We have no idea. So too hard to pick. I think you almost try to leave them out, or you can have a crack at 240k and try and get lucky. Edge, Kelma Tuolangi, 50 to 60 minutes is going to be good enough with him. Just pick him if Garner gets into that starting side and Tuolangi on the bench, it makes it harder. But all he needs is one injury and he gets back into that edge spot. So it might be worth holding him even if he's on the bench. But or you can just pick him up if he gets that start at some point. But at the moment he's starting, so pick him up. Nanite, second best option here. A little bit more expensive. The minutes are unknown. Will he get big ones? Will he get 55, 60? They have Gilbert. They've done on the bench who could come in as different options. Nanite just needs to improve his missed tackles, and he's obviously super young. He was 18, 19 when he first started. So he's now going to have some natural improvement as he gets a bit stronger, a bit more aware of his body, for example. The young with upside, I wouldn't be against it if you popped him in your team for sure. All right, the half position. Ilias, lock him in. Should score pretty well. Even if he doesn't score amazingly, he's going to make money. Schneider, lock him in as well. I'd be playing both of these guys. I just think the way it's all going to run, I'd probably play these guys over your center or wing fullback emergencies. Lock them both in. Amone. Price is annoying at 350 when you've got these other couple of guys, but super talented. Hunt's going to do a lot of the work though, so just be aware of that. He's priced at 28. He needs to score in the mid-30s. Will he be able to do that easily just on his running game alone and tackling? I'm not sure. I think he has some upside for sure. How much is the real question with him. So at the moment he's not in my side, but I'm okay with you putting him in there for sure. Walters, it's just unknown how long he's going to get the spot for, but he should score decent in round 1. So if you just want to take the punt on him, I'd be playing him as well. We saw he had a few errors passing the ball in that second trial, and he still scored in the 40s. So he's someone I think he can get you over 30 in that first game, and fairly consistently just on tackles, running the ball. The odd try assist would be cool for Walters. All right, last two guys, you can see all them there. Centre, I think Penasini just has the most upside in this group, even though he's at 350k. Just being in a better side, for example, and he's got so much talent being young. Rocco Berry has only played 6 games of NRL, coming from Union, has the dual position, upside, general player improvement for him. I think he's the second best option on this list for scoring at the start. Tago is someone that's interesting because he has the dual position and is going to improve across the season, right? He might not start incredibly at the beginning of the year, especially with Cleary not playing. He might be someone that you just have in your emergency because he is 330 odd. He's not breaking the bank too much. He has that coverage that you can bring him in for the edge. If you had 2 injuries, for example, and you maybe have Bullimore on the bench as well, so Bullimore might go to mids, Tago might go to edge, and you have a cover in the center, or Tago just stays in center and you move Aitken up or Bird up or Burton up. Or, there's plenty of options there with him, so he's probably smart to have in your side. If you need the extra 30k, then someone like Billy Smith is going to be a decent one to have. A 300k, he's cheaper, has some injury risks, but super talented and in a good side. So he has scored a bunch of tries in the games he's played. He's got 250 odds. So if he can get you a couple of them to start the season, you'll be cheering. At 300k, you can use that cash to get other people. So in terms of general scoring, I think the other guys and longevity and stuff like that, the other 3 are probably slightly better, but I'm quite happy if you pick Smith as well. Vialia, let me know if I've said that right. Billy Army, I believe, is the Warriors center. He's going to play on the right side. He's got Johnson on his left, which is going to be cool. Hasn't scored well yet, so he could actually be a dud in fantasy in a team that's not going to be amazing. So just keep that in mind. But if you want a cheap guy at 240, then he could be your man. All right, last section, guys. We've got the wing fullbacks, and Stephen Crichton is just the safest option out of all these guys in the center and wing. Averaged 36 last year, and they mispriced him at 28 for some silly reason. So he should be averaging somewhere in that mid-30s at a minimum. If he continues to improve as a player and starts to run the ball a bit more, his tackling improves in the centers, for example, which it should do naturally, then he could average 40. But yeah, price of 28 is silly one for him with dual position. Xavier Coates, I got him as number 2 in the wing fullbacks. I probably have him have a similar ability to score as someone like Tago at this stage of the year, but he's only got the wing fullback coat. So he might be someone that you pop in your emergencies. Yeah, he could obviously score decently, but you want him to be like a bit of a slow burner, I'd say. He's going to have some upside in a better team, score more tries. It's decent, right? All right, James Schiller, probably a few week option at this stage of the season, but injuries do happen. He's super cheap at 240. You can 220. I think he might be 220 actually. You can plug him in. He's in the game now. He actually has wing fullback and centre dual, which is crazy. So that's also helpful, right? For that first few weeks, if you need to play him at some point, then that could be cool. But yeah, just remember that it's probably a few week option, but has some help. It will have some help if injuries arise. So you obviously got over Croker into that spot, so that means something, right? Sean Russell, wingers are always up and down in fantasy, but it's definitely a decent wing to be on the left side of the Eels. He hasn't scored great in the few games that he's played. If you look at a couple of games, in one of the games there he had a couple of tries and still didn't score great. So something to think about with Sean, but 260k is not a bad player to plug in who's a starter. And then you got Cody Ramsey, just slightly more expensive, and he's someone that's never really scored well, but can he improve as a player? Certainly. He's in a better team, definitely. So he becomes a solid option there. There you go. That is the player Bible. Any of those players that I've mentioned in there, go and have a look at Footy Stats, go and look at Rugby League Fantasy Pro, check their stats, see how they plug into your team, and just there's obviously a bunch of different options, different decent options in all the positions. So do what you please in that one. I really hope you enjoyed this and use this as a reference over the next few days, especially. I think it's a bit of a must-watch video. Thank you for staying completely to the end. Please subscribe and like if you haven't done so yet, and we'll catch you in the next few videos. I'm going to be analyzing a bunch of the Discord group members' teams, which will be really cool. And hopefully, there's a few there that are, if I say they're good, they're similar to yours. So have a good day, guys. We'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.